What's going on, guys? I hope that you're all having a wonderful day today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, we're going to be doing a comic book movie tier list, and we are really going after the best of the best films today, because we're going to be talking about the Sony Spider-Man, Spider-Man-less villain universe, the universe that is so bad that there isn't even an official name for it. I feel like everyone just scrambles for a name, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven universe, even though we never even got to see them team up. But either way, with Kraven just releasing, I think it's finally time to talk about this universe, especially because of the fact that Kraven might be the last film in the universe. It's not official yet, but either way, I think it's time to dive into a tier list. So as you guys can see here, I've got all 6 films in release date order, and as you can tell from my tiers, not the biggest fan of this franchise, considering the fact that our top tier here is called Not Good. I don't even think that the best movies in here are even that good. Then we've got horrible. I mean, these are some really, really bad, all-time horrible comic book films. From there, we've got Someone's Getting Fired. We're even going a lower tier. This is like going underneath what's already pretty much hell into Someone's Getting Fired. I mean, these are arguably the worst comic book films ever. Some of the worst movies ever made, even just from a technical standpoint. Very, very embarrassing. But yeah, let's just kick things off here in release order. Starting things off here with the first Venom movie from 2018. You know what? This is going to be going in Not Good. I still don't think it's really a good movie, honestly. I'm really not the biggest fan of Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. Maybe that'll surprise some people, but I really just don't care for this casting, and I really like Tom Hardy, but I just don't think he fits the role. I feel like his voice that he's doing is really awkward. It's weird. At the same time, though, you've got Riz Ahmed in here as the villain. He's pretty cool as Riot, but at the same time, I mean, what is there to say? It's fine at best, maybe on a good day, if you catch me in a good mood. I still don't think it's a good comic book film. I think it sets up this universe, if you even want to call it a universe, pretty well. And, you know, there's some funny jokes, maybe, because it was pretty new at the time, and it's the first movie. But I really don't think that we're saying much here. I really don't like this movie that much, especially because I feel like a lot of other people gas it and act like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I don't really think it's that funny. I don't think it's that enjoyable. I think it's very, very middle-of-the-road, generic comic book movie stuff here. Next up, we've got Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Honestly, I go back and forth on which of these are the best. I'm probably just going to be putting 2 in each of these tiers. I'm going to say that Venom, Let There Be Carnage is the best of the 3 because I feel like it's more memorable. You got Woody Harrelson in there as Carnage, which honestly is kind of a weird casting in my opinion, and even though there's like this weird love interest thing going on, and I feel like the relationship between Eddie and Carnage is kind of weird, it's kind of gory, it kind of pushes those bounds, especially because Carnage is such a great threat, and I think, again, you know, it's kind of entertaining. It kind of feels like, I don't know if any of you have ever played Call of Duty, but it kind of feels like Mob of the Dead, that zombies map. Kind of a random poll reference there, but either way, that's just what it reminds me of, because it's in this like San Francisco prison, I feel like, for a lot of the runtime. The church scene at the end, I think, is pretty cool, like that final battle. There really isn't that much to say, but at the same time, you know what? To give it, you know, some credit, I think that this probably, because honestly, I haven't really seen the Venom films, the first 2 in a minute, but I think this is the best film in this franchise. Now we're really diving into the good stuff with Morbius. Believe it or not, I think that Morbius is only horrible, okay? I think that this is one of the worst comic book movies ever, but I don't think it hits that bottom tier. Let me start off with my positives here. I think that on a basic level, there is a coherent storyline somewhat. Like, I can comprehend what's going on. Even if the execution isn't there, I can sort of piece together the idea of what they were trying to do here, okay? From there, Jared Leto as Morbius, I don't mind the casting, and honestly, Jared Leto, and not like for any personal reasons, is probably my least favorite actor on it. I'm just going to be real with you guys. But I still think that he's kind of good in this role. The CGI actually isn't that bad, and I kind of like the design of Morbius. But from there, I mean, this movie's atrocious. I mean, the story's execution, the pacing, whatever you want to go through, the villain of Matt Smith, all of the motivations are so awkward, the editing, I mean, we could just go on and on and on. The line delivery, the lines themselves are just, it's one of the worst comic book movies ever. I really don't need to say that much. I mean, the fact that, you know, there was just so many memes about this movie, and it kind of kicked off joking about this universe. Truly embarrassing for Sony, especially because of the fact they've put out some of the greatest comic book films ever, like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Into and Across the Spider-Verse. Really doesn't make sense to me why they couldn't just, I don't know, make some decent films or get some decent talent behind these movies. Next up, and this is what's pretty funny to me here, all 3 of the next films actually came out this year. So they just pumped all 3 of these out. I think they just wanted to be done with this universe. The next film that we're going to be talking about here is Madam Web. I feel like this is the only other movie besides Morbius that really kind of got clowned on, if we're being realistic here. Like, these 2 were like cultural hits. I feel like everyone was talking about them, whereas the other films were kind of just bad, but like quietly bad. Madam Web, I think, is the worst film in this universe. I think this one really isn't coherent. I mean, there are some just borderline, just fireable offenses in this movie for the people behind the scenes. I don't know who watched this as like an executive or whatever at Sony and said, yeah, this is totally a deliverable product. We could totally put this into theaters. The ADR is off. Like, from a technical standpoint, it's so horrible that I don't know how it even made it past, again, like the editing room or the screenings that I guess they maybe showed to fans. I have no idea. Dakota Johnson in here is giving the most wooden performance imaginable. And it's funny because the cast here is pretty talented. You've got Sydney Sweeney and also Isabella Merced, but you just get nothing out of this. They try to like tease Peter Parker. It's a joke of a movie. It's one of the worst ever. Next up, we've got Venom: The Last Dance. Now listen, this really might surprise some people, but even though I said I'm, kind of a fan of these 2 Venom movies, if you even want to say that, Venom: The Last Dance honestly just did it for me and just pissed me off. I'm going to be realistic. I'm going to put it in horrible, and I actually think it's worse than Morbius. Call me crazy, but I kind of like the brotherly duo between, Matt Smith's character and Jared Leto's Morbius. I think Venom: The Last Dance is just such a cheap cash grab type of movie because it tries to like introduce Null, and that's the whole focus of this movie, but we end up getting literally nothing out of it. This is just like a setup movie for something that's never gonna even get paid off in reality. You've got the Van hippie family that we're spending pointless time with. I think the jokes are unfunny. It really feels like Tom Hardy is at like the end of the line and he's just phoning his performance in here. I feel like with every single joke, I was just staring at the screen with a blank face, like, please God, checking my watch, how much longer till this movie's over? I think this movie sucks. I feel like people give this movie too much credit. There are just some also really like dumb logical flaws in here. And then of course we lead into our final climactic CGI battle that's such a ridiculous joke. If I'm taking post-credit scenes into account, this one might have one of the worst post-credit scenes ever. Morbius is probably the worst ever, but this one's really bad with that guy just like coming out of the cave or whatever and leading us into nothing. I don't know. This movie is just horrible though. And finally, we're going to be talking about Kraven the Hunter, the one that's very fresh on my mind. This one's going into someone's getting fired, and it's going to go right above Madam Web. I think this is the second worst film. This movie sucks. I think that the only good thing about it is the fact that Aaron Taylor Johnson is Kraven, but he's only good as Kraven when he's not talking and when he's not doing something, because every single line out of his mouth is laughably bad. The whole cast is, the dialogue's just awful. It's really a rough watch. The reason why, see, I'm just saying this, to kind of cover my bases here. I think Morbius is actually better than these other 3, though, is because I kind of understand what the story is. In Kraven, I was like so lost with what was going on. There's like 4 villains in here, and all 4 of them are very uninteresting and pretty much unexplained. I mean, just, again, from a technical level, the CGI is really bad in this. You've got just the editing being super choppy. The ADR, where you could just tell actors' mouths are moving, but the voice that you're hearing isn't even like theirs. It's just edited in, and it's so obvious, and it makes me question how $110 million was pumped into this film, the Kraven film. At least Madam Web was only $80 million as their budget, but Kraven was 110 or 120. That's ridiculous. I mean, this movie was like reworked to death, especially because it got delayed a year. I don't know, guys, but that's going to just about do it for this video. I really hope, you guys enjoyed my ranking of pretty much, I mean, definitively the worst superhero franchise of all time. People will probably say like, oh, but what about the DCEU? I think the DCEU will just suffer from being painfully mid, but I don't think it ever really was like that bad overall. Let's just be realistic here. This sucks. This is embarrassing, and this is like money laundering, if I'm going to be honest with you, for Sony. But yeah, guys, that's going to just about do it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.